All right, again, good morning, y'all, and thank you for taking time out of your day to join me while I showcase what I think are some exciting changes coming to GPLS's online continuing education program. So, over the course of the next hour, I'm going to give you a preview of GLEAN, that is the Georgia Library Education Access Network. I really wish I could take credit for the name, but my wife, who just happens to be a librarian, she came up with it. And I think that the GLEAN moniker is very fitting for what we're trying to do here because GLEAN means to learn, and it also captures what this initiative is all about, and that's expanding the access to quality continuing education to Georgia's libraries. In my mind, GLEAN is going to be the one-stop shop for all things library, continuing education, and training related. So GLEAN is going to be more than just the Skillport LMS and access to resources like lynda.com. GLEAN is also the revamped GPLS CE web page that I'm going to show you momentarily. GLEAN is also the 3,000 plus skill choice complete courses that are contained inside of the learning management system. It's also the 22,000 plus online books that you're going to have access through inside of Books 24/7. It's also library specific courses and webinar archives. So when you look at just the sum total of everything, GLEAN is this large and ever-expanding pool of continuing education resources that you're going to have access to from one place. So even though it includes the Skillport LMS, it is more than just that one product. It's a summation of everything that we've mentioned, and we'll talk more about those individual pieces in a little bit. GPLS, we're really committed to providing quality continuing education and training through a mix of modalities, and that includes face-to-face training and online learning. As you all know, as budgets have stagnated, or in most cases shrunk over the past several years, we've come to rely on e-learning more than ever to reduce travel expenses that are related to training and the amount of time that staff spend away from the job. Let's face it, when your budgets are cut, training and continuing education are areas that are most likely affected. Libraries are no longer able to devote as much money to send the staff off-site for training and development as you could do in more robust times. And also, your budgets have been slashed and you lose staff members, so you likely can't afford to have the remaining staff going off-site as much to attend training because you really need those staff members in the building to operate the library, right? I know I'm preaching to the choir here. So a strong e-learning program is going to provide relevant and convenient access to continuing ed and training that supports like core competencies in libraries, as well as also giving your staff skills to grow in other areas. In a needs assessment survey that GPLS conducted last July, library staff members indicated that online self-paced learning was the second most preferred means of receiving continuing ed. And that was second only to face-to-face, hands-on training. So having a strong e-learning program in place, in my mind, we're giving the library community what it wants and what it has asked for. We began our foray into e-learning back in 2008 when GPLS became a Web Junction partner. And while I'm grateful for Web Junction's contribution to helping GPLS really establish e-learning as a viable method for but I really believe that at this point in time, 5 years later in 2013, our library community is ready to evolve our e-learning program so that we can improve on the things that we were doing well, and also we can do things that we haven't been able to do before. So I want to talk to you all just for a moment about what are some of the key changes that are about to happen to our e-learning program. The biggest change is that as of July 1st, 2013, GPLS would no longer be a Web Junction partner. And I'm pretty sure that many of you, if not all of you, have heard about this through various news announcements and communications with your library's leadership. But as of July 1, we're no longer a Web Junction partner state. So what this means to you in very concrete terms is that library staff members are no longer going to have access to the Web Junction Georgia course catalog after June 30. So this means that if you are enrolled in courses that are inside of that Web Junction Georgia catalog, you need to complete them by June 30th and print out any course certificates that you might want to hang on to for your records. So, really those are the two big changes that relate to Web Junction. However, just because we're no longer a Web Junction partner, it doesn't mean that you're going to lose access to the wealth of like documents and resources that you can find online on Web Junction's main site. So I wanted to show you, like, here are the things that you can still get for free from Web Junction. I want to be very clear about, what we're losing and also what we keep. So essentially, if you were to visit webjunction.org, if you were someone who ever read the Web Junction blog, you would still have access to that. If you were someone who liked to take advantage of some of the resources that were available through Web Junction, you would still have access to those resources. I know that I particularly rely on the competency index that Web Junction puts out. If you still want to take Web Junction webinars, you can take those. So the live webinars, the free ones, they're still there available through Web Junction. The webinar archives that they have, those are still available. The only thing that you lose, is that you won't have access to those courses inside of the Web Junction Georgia catalog. Let me pause really quickly, and I just need some feedback. I'm getting some responses from a few people in the audience that they can't hear anything. So if you would please look underneath the participants panel and give me a green check if you hear audio, or red X if you do not. Obviously, if you can't hear anything, you can't give me any feedback. But I just want to make sure that most people in the crowd can hear me. Okay. All right. It looks like most people can hear me. I would love to take time to troubleshoot the individuals who can't hear me. However, I will just make sure that you all have access to the recording, which should have the audio in it. Okay, right now I think this is also a good time to pause and ask, do you have any questions about what's being added into our e-learning program or what we're losing as we transition over to GLEAN? So any questions about available resources? All right, looks like we don't have any questions, so I will continue. So we just looked briefly at, here are the things that you'll still have access to by remaining through Web Junction for free. The only thing that we lose are the courses inside of the Web Junction catalog. But I want to let you know now about specifically what are the additional resources that we're gaining inside of GLEAN. So I want to go over those quickly here. So inside of GLEAN, these are the things that you're going to notice when we roll out on July 1st. The first thing being is that there will be a redesigned GPLS CE web page, which actually went live yesterday. It was more of a soft launch instead of a big thing where we sent out a press release. But if you go to the GPLS CE web page, you're going to notice that it has been redesigned from a static web page into a richly featured blog site. Even though it still looks like the rest of the GPLS website, the CE page is now a blog. So that blog-based format potentially gives us the ability to share more news and resources and best practices that are related to learning and training more easily. It also gives me the ability to reach out to you all in the library field and say, hey, do we have anyone who wants to be a guest blogger and talk about something neat that relates to learning and training in their library? This is a good way for us to involve more people from the library community. Also, having this blog-based format will give us the ability to feature resources that are inside of the GLEAN learning management system. Speaking of learning management system, GLEAN is, as I mentioned, the platform is the Skillport learning management system that makes all of this go. So I have reached out to some public library directors. Some have expressed interest in not only just using GLEAN to take advantage of the free classes and resources that are there, but also to give those organizations the ability to use GLEAN as their own in-house learning management system. I know from an end user perspective that probably doesn't mean much to you, but the reality is if you work in an organization that has an LMS, you probably know some of the added benefits to being able to use that in-house. For you as a learner, being a part of a learning management system means that you're going to have more control over your learning histories. You'll have more control over how you manage learning assets and goals, and also you'll be able to run some reports on your learning history. Inside of GLEAN, you'll have access to courseware library through Skill Choice Complete. And that is 3,000 self-paced courses that covers business skills, desktop computing skills, and IT skills. I do want to pause really quickly. I see that Melanie has said that, hey, I noticed that lynda.com is not listed. Yes, there's a reason for that. We originally, when we were putting out some of the initial marketing for GLEAN, we believed that we would be able to secure lynda.com access for this fiscal year. However, those negotiations with the contract between Board of Regents Legal and the legal team from lynda.com kind of hit a snag. And so I've been operating under the impression that now we might not be able to offer it. However, the big however is, yesterday I got an email that says that we really might be able to offer lynda.com right now. So the reason why I didn't list it is the status of that contract is still in limbo. But you know, if it does become available, we'll do a big news blast to make sure that people know that it's out there and how to use it. However, if it's not offered, it's not the end of the world. The reality is, lynda.com access was the icing on top of a really good cake. And so even if we don't get access to Lynda this year, I mean, the cake of what we have is still really, really, really darn good. I have another question here. With the Skill Choice Complete courseware, would the participant work his or her way through a list of courses to end with a certification in a particular area? Deborah, that's a good question. Inside of Skill Choice Complete, there are curriculum developed to help people prepare for certification exams, kind of like the Project Management Institute, or Scrum Alliance certification, or Cisco certification, or certification for being a professional in human resources. So yeah, there are tons of curriculum already laid out with all of those courses that can help you get certified in a range of things, from human resources to project management to particularly, yes, IT. I mean, there's certification pathways for, you know, Microsoft certification, Cisco certification. We'll take a look at that in the catalog in just a moment, but there's a ton of certification resources out there, Melanie. Also inside of GLEAN, you're going to have access to Books24, which is really cool. I'm a huge fan. Books24 is 22,000 online books that you can access either through a computer or through a portable device like a cell phone or a tablet. You'll probably notice that I said online book and not ebook, and there's a reason for that. Ebooks tend to presuppose that you can download them, but there are DRM issues attached to that. The books inside of Books24, they can only be accessed online, so you always have to have an active internet connection, but that really helps us kind of manage some of the issues that relate to DRM. So yeah, so granted you have to have an active internet connection, but the reality is you'll be able to have, you can read those books from anywhere. Particularly the Books24 site is mobile optimized, and it works really, really well. But inside of those 22,000 books, you're going to get titles from leading publishers like the American Society of Training and Development. There'll be books from the American Management Association, Harvard Business Press, leading authors like and Malcolm Gladwell. So there are, like I said, just a ton of books that support business, desktop, and IT skills inside of that platform, which we're going to show you in just a minute. Kathy is asking, can Books24 be used on devices like a Kindle? Absolutely. If your device has an internet connection and a browser, chances are it's going to work on your device. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that at the technology boot camp that GPLS hosted a couple months ago, I had a colleague who had an old school Kindle. I mean, I'm talking about like a black and white Kindle, but it had internet connection and a browser. We tested Books24 using an old school Kindle, and it worked like a charm. You know, even a guy like me, I have a not so smart cell phone. It has a web browser on it. I can go into Books24 and read books on this old school Nokia cell phone. So yeah, I have no doubt that as long as you have a browser and a net connection, you'll be able to access the resources in Books24. Any other questions about Books24 before we move on? All right, excellent. Also inside of GLEAN, there's even more. There's a social networking functionality called Ingenious, and that is a gadget that's a mix between like Facebook and Twitter. And what it's meant to do is to allow people to rate and recommend assets inside of the GLEAN system, to start conversations around courses that you might be taking or books that you're reading, and you can follow other people who are members inside of our GLEAN network. And the neat part about it is any comments and discussions that start inside of Ingenious, they stay in the GLEAN system. So these things are not open to the outside internet. It's really just meant to build a community of discussion and learning for the people who are participating inside of this system. Again, that's something else that I'll show you really briefly when we get into the tour. Finally, GLEAN is going to have access to library-specific courses from other state libraries and webinar archives that are just for libraries. I've been really working my professional contacts, leveraging those relationships that I have. And if I know of another state library that's developed some good course content that might benefit us, I've been reaching out to them saying, hey, can I add a link to your resources into my system so that the people in my state can take your classes, like collection development basics, or getting started with cataloging. And I've gotten a lot of really good response from other state libraries. I'll show you that we have a couple library-specific courses already in the catalog. And again, as I continue to work that network of my peers, we'll be getting them included as well. Same with the webinar archives. I see a question here from Sherry who's asking, what about info people? Is that included? Actually, that's a good one. I was able to contact the head of info people, and they have agreed to allow us to add in their webinar archives into the GLEAN system. So yes, in fact, I've already added a couple, and as we lead up to launch, and even throughout June and July, we'll continue to add more and more of those info people webinar archives into our catalog. Any questions about the resources in GLEAN? I mean, lots of great questions so far, and I hope I've been able to answer those adequately for you. So you can see that when you take, the total of everything here, that's a lot of content, and in my mind, that's a lot of value. And I want to just kind of point out monetary value so that you all can just realize, how great of an asset this can be to your continuing education and professional development. For instance, if you were to go out right now and you were to try to secure a 12-month license to the Skill Choice Complete library, that would cost you $1,200 for a year. If you wanted to get 12 months access to the reference collection inside of Books24/7, that would cost you $196 a year. So you're looking at, just between the Skill Choice Complete and the Books24/7 products, that's almost $1,400 if you were to pay for that out of pocket. I'm not here to sell you anything today. I'm here to give you something. And, we're at the state library level, we're trying to give you access to about $1,400 worth of resources and give you opportunities to improve on your skill sets and grow, and also, further your professional development. I see that Deborah had a question here. She says, so these counts as court for Georgia State certification continuing? Yes, the courses inside of the GLEAN system will count for librarian certification renewals. Also, the webinar archives that are inside of the system, you will be able to get a certificate of completion for those, because our system can track how long you've actually viewed a webinar. So if the state licensing board ever comes to me and says, hey, did Deborah actually watch this webinar archive for an hour? If they ever came and asked that, we can give them that information. So yeah, we're able to offer certificates of completion for all the courses and webinar archives in the catalog. I will say, just really quickly, understand too that inside of GLEAN, there are other assets like job aids and simulations and books and short video tutorials. These kind of learning assets right here, these things that are short and kind of informal, those won't count for certification. So you just have to keep in mind that, yes, it has to be a self-paced course or a webinar archive to count, and then everything else likely will not. But if you had any specific questions, just feel free to ask me. Nick is asking, will these courses be available to retirees who want to continue to meet continuing ed requirements for state licensure? Nick, that is actually a question that at this moment I can't answer. I don't have an answer to you for that, but it is something that we've been asked before at GPLS, and I still just don't have a very clear answer. But Nick, once I find out something, I will follow up with you. Kathy's asking, will the course give you the number of CEs available? Yeah, so what happens is inside of GLEAN, when you go into the course catalog, there's a place where you can see the details for all the classes, and part of the details is the duration of a class. So it might not say, you know, this course counts for 2 CEs, but it will say this course lasts 2 hours, and we do a 1-to-1 ratio. So if a course says that it has a running time of 2 hours, then it counts for 2 CEs. Yes, Nick, I totally understand the importance of all of this, and I just want to make sure that I give accurate information because of just how weighty this issue is. So I need to talk to my leadership, Julie and Lamar, to try to get some guidance. All right, so you can see lots of value here. And again, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to sell you on this idea that your future is in your hands. So before we get into the tour, I just want to talk real quick. Why should you care? Why should you care? There's a whole lot of free stuff out there. What makes this something that you should really have on your radar? First thing being is there's been an outcry in library leadership that we need to have GPLS provide courses and CE opportunities to help people reinforce core competencies. We've heard that from our plaque. We're responding. This system right here gives me the ability to organize our catalog in such a way where I can map certain courses to certain library core competencies from standardized core competency indexes for the library field. So we can do that. We can put content in place that maps directly to core competencies. You should care about this system. You should care about the system because it gives you the ability to keep up with library trends. When we did our needs assessment survey, the top need that came out was that there's so many things happening in libraries that we can't keep up, and we need to have ways that where we can have access to trends at our fingertips. This gives us the ability. This platform gives us the ability to give you information such as webinar archives that can help you stay tuned in to trends that affect how libraries operate. Just-in-time training. This system, we recognize that not everyone has an hour or 2 hours to sit down and devote to taking a class all at once. So with this system, we're really trying to highlight fingertip knowledge. You go into the system, you find very easily what you need. You can take your learning in chunks. You can always come back to it. And plus, many of the assets inside of the system are designed for just-in-time training. So, you might have a 5-minute video that shows you how to do a certain function inside of Excel. Or you might be able to go into Books24, and the search feature is so rich that it will take you to specifically the page or the chapter that has the answer to what you're looking for. You should care about this system because there are resources to help you get certified in different areas. So again, we talked about if you want a human resources certification, or if you want to get certification in project management or a ton of IT certifications for your own professional development, you can do that, and it won't cost you a dime. In fact, I have a coworker here, Emily Allman. She's over IT, and Emily, she does a little bit of everything. I think that's fair to say. And in one of her former lives, she was studying to get certification in project management. So, Emily told me that her previous employer paid thousands of dollars for her to take classes to get prepared for the certification exam. And when I showed her some of the PMI resources inside of Skillport, inside of the GLEAN system, she was just amazed that all that was there and it was free. And then finally, another reason why you should care, particularly for all of my people out in the audience who might be trainers, you should care because inside of the system, I can get you access to pre-canned content. So if you are a trainer or a manager and you put together workshops for your staff members. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm sorry. 1 second, I forgot to mute my telephone. I'm going to pause right here. I'll be right back. All right, people. Sorry about that. I'm kind of like an octopus here today. We had someone calling in. She was having issues getting to the webinar. So thank you all for your patience, and I'm back, and we're back on track. So these are the reasons why you should care. And I think what's so super awesome about this is that I don't have to try to convince you anymore, because now I'm going to show you. You're going to get to see hands-on, behind the scenes, what you have to look forward to in a couple of weeks. So, let's take a look at the new kid on the block, and that's GLEAN. And you got to love my sense of humor, right? It's the new kids on the block. Nice picture, okay? All right, so right now I'm going to actually exit out of this PowerPoint presentation and share with you all my desktop, so that we can talk about some of the resources that are going to be available to you. So let's minimize here and make it where you can see my screen. All right, so here we are. GLEAN really starts, the jumping off point for GLEAN is the revamped CE web page on the GPLS website. So if you were to go to georgialibraries.org/CE training, it's going to take you to what I think of as GLEAN Central. And this is where you will see all the news related to all things that are happening and continuing ed and training in Georgia. And you'll also have access to the login screen for GLEAN right here on this page. Notice here that there's a new blog-based format. It makes it where it's easier for us to share news with you. You can put star ratings by different blog posts on the page. You can also leave comments and reactions to any of the articles or news pieces that are on the CE page. So again, just a really neat way to interact with our community. We'll also be using this blog to highlight resources inside of GLEAN. For example, if I write an article about building effective teams, inside of that article, I might actually put a link to the course. And when you click on it, you'll be taken to the GLEAN login page so that you can go into the course. So just a couple really neat ways that we're trying to draw people into the content without them always having to think about this barrier to access. All right, so let's actually get into GLEAN right here. So from GLEAN Central, from georgialibraries.org/CE training, you click login to GLEAN. Come July 1st, you all should, all my public library people, you all should have, you'll receive an email that has your username and password to get into the system. The way that we're managing registrations, I think this is important for everyone to know, is that from now until mid to late July, we have an exclusive window where public library directors are being invited to enroll all of their employees into the GLEAN system. This way, I can ensure that all of my public library people have access to GLEAN. After all, we are Georgia Public Library Service, and our primary audience is the public libraries. However, we have always been really good about playing in the sandbox, so to speak, with other library institutions inside of the Georgia library field. So toward the middle to the end of July, I haven't decided on an exact date just yet, but we're going to open up registration to other library employees somewhere around the middle to the end of July. And you all will be able to request accounts to get into GLEAN. So anyhow, once you have your GLEAN login, you'll punch that in here, and you will be taken into the system. Here's the home page. So you'll notice cascading down the left-hand side of your screen, you have some navigation information. Typically, when people come into GLEAN, they're here to learn. So I think it might make the most sense to start off by just kind of browsing what kind of content is in our library. So I'm going to click on catalog over here. And you'll see that we have a few folders set up for you. We'll start off by looking at the one that's just for libraries. This is the folder that's going to contain, like it says, content that is geared specifically for libraries. The navigation structure here is very similar to Windows. If you know how to make your way through a Windows-based environment where you drill down through folders, you can make it through this system. So let's say that someone comes in and they want to take a look at some of the online courses we have just for libraries. You go into this folder, and hey, there's a class about an intro to technical services and cataloging. You can look at the details here. I know someone asked earlier about, well, how do you know how long a class lasts or what it's about? Well, when you click on Show Details, you get information about the duration, who created the course, and what you can expect to learn. What I like about this system is, inside of the details screen, you have the ability to leave comments. So if you're taking a course and you think that it's particularly good, you can leave a comment and let the rest of the people inside of GLEAN know that, hey, this course on the intro to technical services and cataloging, it really filled a need for me. You can share that comment with the community. Or if you just have comments that you want to leave for yourself so that you can jog your memory, you can make those comments private. Again, I just like how the system has functionality built in so that we can learn more together. You can also recommend this course to other people too by clicking that star. I'm just going to launch this course really quickly so that you can see what a course player might look like. So we're loading in, and this was a course that was created by the Idaho Commission for Libraries, and they were kind enough to let me use this inside of my system. But yeah, you just launch the course, and typical narration, you can just click forward and back to get through the class. Once you're done, you just exit out, and you're good to go. Any course that you begin, you can always resume it later by going to My Progress. That information, the courses that you launch, should be inside of your progress screen. You can always resume from where you left off. I'm going to hop back over to the catalog, and let's just take a look at, say, a webinar archive, because I know these will be popular. We had a lot of people asking for this kind of functionality, so we're giving it to you. Right now, we have webinar archives being piped in from ALA. The Georgia Library Association has given us permission to use their archives from the Carteret Series webinars. We also have some from Info People. And again, I'm continuing to work my relationships with other training providers in library land to get them to agree to allow us to put these webinars in our catalog as well. So let's take a look at, say, information technology. We had a webinar archive that was done recently by Jason Griffey of the American Library Association. We show details. Again, we get a quick blurb of what this is, the target audience, and the expected duration. We'll launch it just so you can see what it looks like. Voila, you get some instructions and play. You have the webinar archive playing in your browser. Once you have finished watching this archive, you'll have the ability to get yourself a certificate of completion for taking this webinar. As always, you close out of it. You can resume that course inside of My Progress. Let's look at some other things here.
I have a question from Melanie.
We have a question, and we'll take it.
Privately chatted to me. Do you know if these accounts are the same ones that IT folks were allowed to set up for testing? It looks just like the plain Skillport interface. Perhaps everything is being implemented through their interface?
Yeah, Melanie asked, was this the same system that the IT people had early access to? And yes, it is, Melanie. This is still the system that underlies all this. It is Skillport, but we've decided to just brand it as the Georgia Library Education Access Network, because Skillport is a learning management system platform to give us the ability to deliver the content, but we also are bringing in more content into the system than comes stock with Skillport. Does that answer your question, Melanie?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, let's look at some other things. Instructor-led training, you'll see that folder here. So this is really neat. You can use Skillport, at least we're using Skillport, to manage face-to-face instruction. So I know that oftentimes I'll be invited out to a library to present at Staff Development Day, or someone will want me to come in and deliver a workshop for their libraries. Well, when people need me to do that, I'm going to ask if they signed up for that class inside of GLEAN, and so we can track the registrations. We can manage classroom rosters through the system, and also deliver certificates of attendance through this system. And even if a course is not currently being offered at this time, you can still go into the instructor-led training folder and look at any of these workshops that I provide. We'll add in others from other GPLS departments, but you can just click on the title and get some of the details about what's happening in this class, and also see when it might be scheduled for the future. So this gives us the ability to manage face-to-face classroom registrations, and this is how you would sign up for those if I was coming out to your library system. Finally, you have your course curricula folder, and this is all of the skills. These are all the SkillSoft classes that came bundled with this system. And I just want to give you a quick overview of just some of the content that you're going to find in here. And it's a lot. There's no way I could possibly do justice to the wealth of information that's here. So I just can't wait until July 1st where you can get your hands on it yourself and just dig in and see everything that you're going to have access to. But for instance, if you wanted to look into getting a certification in human resources, you can go into the business certifications folder. You see there's information for professional and human resources, and voila, you have an entire curriculum laid out that you can take from start to finish to prepare yourself for the PHR exam. And what's even neater about this is after you take all these classes, there are even practice tests, a practice exam that you can take to see if you might be ready to invest the money and take the official PHR test. You will even have access to mentors for a lot of these leading certification exams. So, for example, if I were preparing for my PHR exam, there would be a place for a Mentor Connect where I could reach out either through chat or by email and ask this person questions about anything that I might be unclear of as it relates to the PHR exam, or just kind of ask about the logistics of the exam itself. So again, you're not only getting a full-blown curriculum to prepare for certification, you're getting access to mentors and, in many cases, practice exams so that you can assess your readiness. For people who are in a pinch, there's a folder that's set aside just for 1 hour courseware. So that means if you can spare an hour of your time, particularly for my librarians out here in the audience who need to get those CEs for library certification renewal, but you're short on time, just go into the 1 hour courseware folder. Pick you can just pick topics that might look interesting to you, and you know that any class you find here will last just 1 hour, and there are hundreds of 1 hour courses inside of our catalog. So that's just one way that you can find courses in the system, of course, by browsing, but you can also do a search. And the searching feature inside of the system, let's face it, we all know that inside of anything that's like a database, searches are never perfect. The only almost perfect search system out there, it might be Google or Bing. So in my experience, the search feature in this system works better than other learning management systems I've experienced over the years, but it's still not perfect. And you'll find that you're still going to be able to surface the information that you need, but you might need to just kind of learn the system a little bit to get the exact information. But in general, I think it works pretty well. Let's say that I'm a learner and I've come in and I want to learn more about Windows 8, right? So I can just do a search here for Windows 8. I can search across all the content inside of the system, or I can just search for specific types of learning assets. Right now, let's just search all. All right, so when we search for Windows 8, we get a total of almost 2,200 results. That's a blend of courses, about 118 courses, almost 1,800 books, 54 videos, test prep exams, mentors, job aids, you name it. There are almost 2,200 assets that relate to Windows 8. What I like about the search results here is you'll notice that as you scroll down the screen, you get results from courses first, and then you'll get results for your books, then you'll get results for videos, etc., and so on. Within your search results, you're going to notice that you have these gold bubbles, and these gold bubbles indicate how relevant a particular result is to your search term. So not only, when we search for Windows 8, the most relevant course is Windows 8 New Features and Tasks, but we also have relevancy bubbles for particular areas inside of that course. So if you didn't have time to peruse the entire course, you could just go into the topic that might be most relevant to your search. Again, so this just highlights that this system is all about giving you the information that you need when you need it. I'm going to go ahead and launch this course on Windows 8, just so you can see what one of the Skillsoft course players looks like. Again, if you've taken any Skillsoft courses through the Web Junction catalog, this should look very familiar. So it's a familiar interface. And there you have it. You can naturally go forward and back. You can turn on closed captioning if you prefer to read instead of hearing the audio. You can get access to all the resources that are attached to this course. So there are just layers upon layers of information, and I would encourage you after July 1st to just get in and dig. I'm going to exit this course now. And remember that after you have taken a course, you can always find it in My Progress and resume. So this is, in a really quick overview, a couple ways that you can access learning assets from within GLEAN. You can browse the catalog. You can also search and get tons of results. A couple other things that I want to point out here while we're inside of this. You notice on your left-hand side, you'll see a little widget here for Ingenious. This is access to that social networking utility that I mentioned, and I'll hop into that in just a moment to show you what it looks like. We've got a question from Kathy, and she's asking, when you finish a course, is the information stored for you? Absolutely. So after you finish a course, if you go into My Progress, you'll see that you have a screen here for any courses that are currently in progress, and then you have a tab for anything that you have completed. So, so if you had anything completed, it would be in this list, and it would always stay there. So you would always have access to your learning history. Did that answer your question, Kathy? Gotcha. And yes, I'm sorry if it is hard to see the screen. I hope that the webinar recording will be a little clearer, or that you will have some options to magnify to make things a little bit bigger. All right, so back over to this Ingenious social networking utility. The most recent activity that's happening inside of the Ingenious community is displayed over here to your left. If you want to see more about what's happening in Ingenious, you can just hit more. And this gives you a running feed of all the things that are happening. So if someone started following someone else, you would see that. If someone recommended a book or a class or a video, you would see that in Ingenious. If someone started a discussion around a particular asset, you would see all of that from inside of this Ingenious utility. I want to hop back over to content and talk about the other major asset that we're having access to, and that is Books24. You'll see in the upper right-hand corner of my screen, there's a link to Books24. And what I wanted to mention about this is that the catalog of assets that are inside of Books24, you can also search those assets through this interface, the Learning Management System interface. However, once you're inside of Books24, you can't search for courses inside of the Learning Management interface. So I guess what I'm saying is, right now, the search functionality between these two platforms are loosely integrated. I have talked to the people at Skillsoft that actually make this platform, and they assure me that more tight integration is on the way. but this is still a relatively new product and a new partnership between these two companies. So that's why the integration isn't totally complete. But you will see that once you have logged into this learning management system interface, when you click on Books 24/7, it will automatically log you into that service as well. So right now we are inside of Books 24, and I want to talk to you quickly about what you're seeing on this home screen. So once you're inside the Books 24 platform, you have a home screen that's going to show you Ingenious activity, kind of like what we saw inside of that Ingenious widget inside of the Skillport Learning Management System. You'll also have an area that shows you what's new. So if you want to see what new titles have been added to the Books 24/7 collection, you click on what's new and you get a list of all the new titles that are added. What's really cool about Books 24 is that new titles are added to the system on a weekly basis. And so if you were to sign up for an email, which you can get a list of all the new titles that are being added to the system, or you could just look right here under what's new and see what's been added in the past week. I have a question perhaps or a comment coming in from Burr. I'm happy to take that. All right, Burr, the floor is yours. I guess while we wait for Burr's commentary, we'll just proceed, and I'll pause once we get that commentary into the chat window here. So on the home screen, you get any new activity inside of Ingenious and inside of Books 24, a nice summary of what has recently been added to the system. Inside of Books 24, it's just like in the Skillport LMS. You can browse for information or you can search for information. And I'm just going to hit a couple browsers that I think are particularly appealing and important. So inside of this Books 24/7 platform, you'll have access to not only just online books, but you'll also have access to audiobooks and videos. So I want to show you quickly, how can you find these videos and how can you find the audiobooks. So if I just wanted to view desktop, if I wanted to view videos that are inside of this platform, over here on the Browse Topics, you see there's a menu here for desktop video topics and IT technical video topics. Choose either one of those, and then you can browse more closely. So let's say that I'm looking for, video that relates to a mobile device. I get a list of mobile devices. It's either Android, iPad, or tablets. Let's say I want to see something about Android. I'll pause right here and I can see the question from Deborah of where is Browse Topics, and it might be behind the chat window. I'm wondering if perhaps part of my screen might be cut off because I'm using a widescreen monitor and you can't see it. Chris, are you able to see all of?
I'm able to see your full screen.
Full screen, okay. Gotcha.
Got a couple of questions.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and Susan, I believe you're right. Melanie, if you have, I'm sorry, Deborah, if you have your chat window open, it's possible that it's blocking. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we went into a browse of mobile devices and computer skills. We looked at Android. And look at that, there are 15 videos that relate to using an Android device. So another neat thing for you right here. If you wanted to watch a video right now, you sure could. Let's say that I wanted to see how to add a calendar event inside of Android. I click on the title, and I have the option here to either play the video or download it. Real quick note here. The audiobooks and videos contained inside of Books 24/7, again, they have no DRM attached to them. So once you download them onto your device or onto your computer, they are always going to be on your computer. You don't have to worry about checking these things out or checking them back in. So I just want you to know that Audiobooks and video files, they are DRM free, and once you download them, they are yours to view on your device as you see fit. So right now, I could either view this video, or if I were a learner and I didn't have time to view this right now, I could always just save this into a folder and come back to it later. So let's just do that. So we found this video that looks interesting, but we don't have time to watch it right now. Let's go ahead and add this to a folder, and we can come back to it later. So I'm going to click on Manage Title, and we get a little menu that pops up that asks me, do I want to move this title to a particular folder? So I've set up some folders here. Oh, I don't have one. So let's say I want to organize, you know, my learning and put this into It Sounds Interesting folder. So I'm going to keep a copy of this in my Sounds Interesting folder, and I can come back to it. I hit Update. That title has now been added into my folder. I'm going to pause real quick. I think Burr had some commentary, and we have another question. So let's start first with Deborah's question, and then I'll come back to yours, Burr. So Deborah asked, are the folders on your hard drive, or is it in the GLEAN system? The folders are in the GLEAN system. So, you know, if you start taking a course at work and then you need to resume it later from home, it's all in the cloud. So these are all out in the ether and not stored to your hard drive. All right, let's go back to Burr's question. Burr says, I want to make sure I understand something correctly. It looks like that although other content is not discoverable through the Books 24/7 link, the opposite does indeed work. I believe that based on your first content search for Windows 8, the Books 24/7 content was indeed discoverable from a higher level search. Is this accurate, or did I just misunderstand the results? Oh yeah, Burr, that's a very good question, and I probably wasn't very clear in explaining it. So yeah, so when you're inside of the Skillport LMS, the first system that we showed, oopsies. So yeah, so when you're inside of this system, if you do a search, again, we'll go back to Windows 8. When you do a search in this system, it searches the content inside of this system as well as all the content inside of Books 24/7. However, when you're inside of Books 24/7 and you were to do a search for Windows 8, it would only search for Windows 8 content in Books 24/7, but not in the Skillport LMS. Did that answer your question, Burr? Excellent. Sherry asked, will the instructor-led category be used to provide access to classes taught by you or others via archives, as well as be used as a way to register? Okay, so instructor-led category is primarily a way for people for end users, for learners, to register for a class. But the delivery method for that class would be a live face-to-face training. So I guess then the answer is yes, it's used to register. Yes, the instructor-led training folder is used to register for classes, but no, it's not used as a medium to deliver classes. Did that answer the question, Sherry? I'll move on and come back to Sherry's response if she gets an opportunity. Excellent. And again, as you all have further questions to come up, I know that our time here is running short today. You can always email them to me, and I'm happy to answer them. And also, fear not, I will be scheduling some live and online training for the system that gets in more depth so that people can really feel comfortable, you know, locating information and searching for information. So we'll definitely have you covered. So we've taken a look at two platforms, books very quickly. Like I said, inside of it you have not only 22,000 books, you have videos, you can even find audiobooks by going to business topics, and there's a link here for audiobooks. Lots of great stuff to be had there. I am currently I'm currently listening to some things by Stephen Covey inside of my car. Kathy asked, do the books and Books 24/7 check out, or do they stay on your device? So again, no, there's no checkout process in Books 24/7. I mean, what's great about it is you find a title that you like, you click on it, and you can start reading immediately. So yes, you can access them immediately. Now, do they stay on your device? No, because you haven't downloaded them. I mean, the books will always be accessed through the internet. So while Books 24/7 has the ability for you to bookmark where you are inside of a book, where you can always resume, the book isn't actually stored on your device. And I hope that explains how it works out. Excellent. So you see, I mean, we've highlighted really quickly how can you find videos, how can you find audiobooks. One last thing we'll do here just to show you the wealth of material inside of Books 24/7, I'm just going to do a search for social networking, and let's just see how much stuff comes up. Oh, something didn't work right there. Let's try that again. There we go. So we did a search for social networking. We get almost 1,600 titles. Again, the search functionality in Books 24/7 works the same as the Skillport search functionality in the way that it puts your most relevant result at the top, and then also it gives you kind of like a gold bar to indicate how relevant specific sections are inside of that topic. So that's been very helpful to pinpointing specific information. You can also organize books the same way as other assets by putting them into folders. So if you ever find something that you want to read, but you don't have time to right now, just add it to a folder and you can come back to it later. Deborah had a couple comments here. Back in the video access screen, I noticed there was a Word doc name labeled transcripts, and is that available for all videos? Yes, all the videos inside of the Books 24/7 platform, they do have transcripts, recognizing that not everyone is a visual learner, and some people need to actually read the dialogue that's being discussed in the videos. Last thing I want to show you inside of Books 24, and that was, we talked about this site being mobile optimized. So if you have a mobile device and you want to access the Books 24/7 platform on your smartphone or your tablet, all you need to do is just go to this link in the upper right-hand corner and click on Mobile Users. And that's going to give you the information for the mobile version of this site with your group code, which you'll need, and your username. And all you have to do is just input that information to your web browser on your portable device, and you're going to get a fully mobile-friendly version of this site. And I can tell you, just from experience, I had a coworker who will be the first to admit that she's not very tech-savvy, but she came in yesterday with her Nexus 7, and she was like, I want to see how Books 24/7 works on a mobile device. And it was so intuitive that I had her up and running, looking for books and downloading audiobooks and videos within 5 or 10 minutes. So again, it's a very intuitive system to use and something that I believe you'll get a lot of use from, and it shouldn't be too difficult to learn. Well, I know that our time here is wrapping up, so I'm going to pull away from Books 24/7. I hope that over the last 40 minutes we were able to give you just a quick preview of Skillport, LMS, and the Books 24/7 platform, give you an idea of how much information is in there, and some very quick indications of how you can use those two systems. I want to hop out of sharing my desktop now and kind of wrap things up, because I know people have to go, and I definitely believe in valuing your time. But as we conclude, I want to leave you with some parting thoughts. And what I have on the screen here are some numbers from key organizations that work with training. In the first field, IFLA, the International Federation of Library Associations, they recommend that 1% of a library's total budget be spent on training and continuing ed, and that employees spend 10% of their time on the clock learning. The American Society of Training and Development in a study that they published in November of last year, showed that the average company spends almost $1,200 on training for an employee, and an employee takes about 31 hours in a year devoted to training and development. Here at GPLS, we are doing something that many individual libraries can't do, and something that's even above and beyond what most private businesses do. We're giving you access to some tools and resources that are worth almost $1,400 per employee. My question to you is, how much time are you going to devote to using these resources? How much time are you going to devote to reinforcing your skills, gaining new ones, and devoting to your professional development? We have a couple more questions. I'll take those, and then we'll wrap up for today. So Susan asks, will library directors have access to their employees' records on GLEAN? It depends on how your library system has worked with me to set up your GLEAN group. For instance, specifically for your organization, Susan, I don't have any employees loaded into my system yet. We haven't gotten any information from your organization about who to add into the system. So I can't speak specifically for your institution. I can say that some other libraries, they're just doing a general implementation. Basically, everybody in the library just goes in as a learner, and one person doesn't have access to someone else's records. That's how a lot of libraries are using them, using the system. However, I do have a couple libraries who are interested in using GLEAN as their own in-house learning management system. And for organizations that opt to do that, then depending on the way we configure permissions in the system, a person's manager might have access to her direct reports records, or the library director might have access to the records of all the employees in that system. But again, that is only for organizations who have worked with me to have GLEAN used as their in-house LMS. Melanie has asked something about my plan. I didn't get much time to talk about that, but my plan, you should really consider that a space for you to organize your own goals. So Melanie, if you identified that you wanted to learn more about, say, leadership, you might put a folder inside of my plan that says leadership, and then you would go through the catalog and find assets that you would assign to yourself inside of that leadership folder. You can give yourself deadlines for when you want to finish them, and then after you've kind of taken those courses, you can check them off your list. Did that answer your question, Melanie? Excellent, excellent. So to wrap things up, finally, what's next? What's next? So the main CE page for GPLS has been redesigned. That's up and it's available now. So you'll be able to see any news that relates to training and continuing ed coming from GPLS there. Also, any updates about GLEAN will be published on that page. So I encourage you to check in often. On July 1st, it will become available to public library staff. Again, I have sent a word out to library directors encouraging them to give me a list of all of their employees so I can add those public library staff members into the GLEAN system. So that way, public library staff members won't even have to fill out a registration form. They'll just need to, if their library directors have given me their information, on July 1st, you're going to get an email from the GLEAN system with instructions for how to get started. And for everybody else in the library community, I don't have an exact date just yet. I'm almost there, but not just yet. We're going to open up GLEAN registration to the rest of the library community sometime in the middle to the end of July. I don't have an exact date, like I said, but we will definitely publish that information out across various listservs so that everyone can stay informed. Melanie had another question. Can directors assign courses through my plan? If we set your library system up in such a way where your director is considered the administrator of your group, then yes, the director can assign courses through my plan. But if we haven't set it up that way specifically for a library, then that's not possible. And finally, Sherry asked, are all staff included, not just professionals? I am, as far as doing this exclusive pre-registration, I'm giving library directors latitude to make that decision. I recommend that all full-time and part-time classified staff in a library be added to the system but we can also accommodate positions that might not be classified but don't experience high turnover. I mean, basically, we don't want volunteers in the system. We don't want like shelvers added to the system. But some libraries have like, circulation assistants who are not necessarily classified with the county, but they still work part-time in the library and their position doesn't turn over very often. A situation like that, I would say, by all means, add that paraprofessional into the system. So like I said, I mean, we're really trying to make this thing reach as many people as possible, just simply with the understanding that there are limited seats in the system, and once we assign a seat to somebody, that seat is gone for good. So I think that should answer everything. Finally, any other questions before we sign off here? We're about an hour and 5 minutes in. Susan asked, can an individual sign up even if the library as a whole does not? Yes, Susan, that will be possible, but that won't be possible until the middle to the end of July. Any other questions? Excellent. Well, thank you all for your time and your attention and your patience today. I know that we had a couple technical hiccups, but as always, I mean, we kind of pulled through with a plum. If you have any questions at all about this GLEAN initiative, how to get started, what resources are available, please feel free to contact me by email. My email address, I'll put it here in the chat box. It is jturner@georgialibraries.org. And also my direct line here in the office is 404-235-7124. So shoot me an email, give me a call if you have any questions. All right, thank y'all. A recording of this will be available in the next couple of hours, and I will send it out to everyone who participated today. Y'all have a good day, and we'll see you again.